It's time for another episode of The Adventures of William Ruby, Private Detective, brought to you by Wright, the dentifrice that keeps your teeth clean and white.
Ruby here. For $100 a day plus expenses, I'll track down your missing loved one, or spy on them if you prefer, figure out where your jewels went, serve papers. Heck, I'll even get your cat out of a tree if necessary. Just call my office. It's down on the western end of Hollywood Boulevard. Not the fanciest place in town, but it does. If a female answers, don't hang up. That's Frankie, my secretary, operative, and, well, a few other things I won't mention. She's the best at all of them, trust me. We're waiting for the phone to ring most days. Like this one day, it was early summer, which meant lots of tourists, but not a lot of cases. I was working out the best rhyme for blood, and Frankie was reading the paper. Could. No. Would. Nah. I know. Mud.
Mud?
Rhyme for blood. Red is my blood. My name would be Mud if I ever lost your love.
That is the worst poem I have ever heard in my life. We'd better get a case soon. We don't, and you'll be writing nutty stories like what I'm reading. Truth really can be stranger than fiction.
What are you reading?
Story about a ring of thieves who painted over priceless paintings during the war in order to sneak them out of Europe. The feds just caught a bunch of them in Miami. Know what gave them away? They forgot to take the paintings out of their fancy frames. Customs took one look at them and knew right away what was going on. I would have too. The story's crazier than most novels I've read.
Well, they always say that art imitates life.
Are you William Ruby, the private detective?
If not, my mother wrote the wrong name in my suit.
I need to speak to you in private.
This is as private as you're going to get. This is my assistant, Frankie O'Shea. She'll know it all the minute you walk out the door, so you might as well tell us both now and save time.
Very well.
Please, have a seat, Mr.
Ridgely. Wendell Ridgely. Perhaps you've heard of me.
Not calling me to dinner. Hang on. Something to do with motion pictures. Director?
I was, once upon a time. Now I'm producing them. My current project is filming at Imperial Studios. It's a thriller about a portrait that contains the spirit of its subject. I think it may be my last, whether I want it to be or not.
Financing issues?
No. I am certain someone is trying to kill me. I want you to keep that from happening.
Oh, brother.
Well, why do you think someone is trying to kill you, Mr. Ridgely?
Things keep happening that shouldn't. A lighting instrument came unhooked and crashed within feet of me. The brakes failed on a studio vehicle I was driving, and I had to jump out before it careened into traffic. A piece of scenery fell and actually pinned me to a wall. 1 I could shrug off, but 3 is too much to be a coincidence.
It's enough to keep you up at night, that's for sure.
Will you take my case?
Depends on your bank account. I charge $100 a day plus expenses.
That's fine. I put all my personal money into this picture, but I can expense this through the production company. I have with me a check for $500 as a retainer. Will that do?
$500, you say?
Yes, Mr. Ridgely. That will be fine.
Excellent. I need to return to the studio. Come down in an hour. I don't want anyone to know who you really are, so I will say that you are... let's see... journalist, writing an article about the picture.
I'll fish my brownie out of the closet. Anything else we need to know?
No one involved with the picture knows of my fear, so please keep it to yourself. Well, except my wife. Veronica does know. She's playing the female lead.
What does she think of your fear?
She thinks I'm being silly, that everything was just a series of unfortunate accidents. I assure you, I am never silly, and those were no accidents. I will see you in an hour.
Oh, brother.
You said that already. I take it you think it's a publicity stunt.
Most of me does.
I'm hearing a but.
He says no one but his wife knows he thinks someone is after him. I haven't seen anything about any accidents in the paper. The world's not going to feel sorry for him if it doesn't know anything's wrong.
That's a but, all right. So he's telling the truth?
I wouldn't say that either. In fact, I'm not going to say a thing until I've played photographer. Grab a steno pad and a pencil. You can be the reporter. We'll stop in my place for the camera on the way to this disaster after we go to the bank and deposit this baby. Disaster might sound harsh, but it was kinder than the rags had been. I had read about the picture, The Portrait Lives. It was supposed to be a gothic thriller about a guy's soul trapped in a painting. The phrases terrible script and talentless cast were tossed between articles like tennis balls. I hadn't heard of any of the stars except Maurice Dumont, who was playing the lead. He had a couple of minor successes in the silence. Since then, he'd been not much more than a parade guest or a picture in Where Are They Now in the gossip rags. I've never been to Imperial Studios, but judging from an address that was in the seediest end of Hollywood, it wasn't a place that churned out hits. Frankie and I walked right into the building as it didn't have a guard perched outside. Inside was a kind of lazy cacophony as movie types wandered around seemingly busy and seemingly not caring. This has to be the place. It smells as rotten as the script is supposed to be.
I've always been fascinated by movie shoots. All the bustle and fussing. It's a miracle that they can turn all of this into something people want to pay money to watch.
Shoots in general? Agreed. This one in particular? It's going to take more than a miracle for it to get an audience.
Well, hello there. You're not a new leading man by any chance, are you?
Hello yourself, petite, blonde, and gorgeous. Do you need one?
In more ways than one. And you fit the requirements nicely.
We're reporters from Silver Screen magazine. We have an appointment with Mr. Ridgely.
That's too bad. I was just starting to daydream about your screen test, handsome. Mr. Ridgely should be in the production office, in that trailer right over there.
Thanks. Keep dreaming about that screen test, and I will too.
Count on it.
Keep dreaming about that screen test. She does, and I'll pull out that peroxide blonde hair by the roots.
You're just adding to my daydream, Frankie. This must be the place, judging from the sign that says production office.
Mr. Ridgely? Frankie O'Shea, Silver Screen magazine, and my photographer. We have an appointment?
Yes, of course. Please, come in. Well done, Miss O'Shea. Have you ever done any acting?
Not on purpose.
You should give it a try. You have talent.
I keep her too busy for that. Nice office. Do you always move a history museum with you to shoots? There's a suit of armor over there, a stuffed raven over here, and behind you the biggest crystal ball I've ever seen.
Those are just props for the picture. I prefer to keep them in here under lock and key when they're not being used. None are particularly valuable, but I would be hard-pressed to replace them. This right here is the painting that's the focal point of the picture.
Wow. That's, frightening.
I'm glad you think so. That's exactly what we were going for. This is the one thing in the whole movie that I purchased with personal funds. I plan to give it to my wife as a memento for her first starring role.
How macabrely romantic.
So, how will you proceed, Mr. Ruby?
We'll go out there and get a lay of the land, talk to a couple of people. Anyone we should pay attention to?
Don't know. I've known all of this cast and crew for a long time, through 5 pictures. We've had our differences, of course, but nothing serious. I certainly can't imagine any of them wanting to kill me. But obviously someone does. Let's have someone take you around so it looks legitimate. Carl! Would you come here, please?
What's up, Chief?
This is Frankie O'Shea and her photographer, William, Roberts. Francis, William, this is Carl Youngers, our assistant director.
Pleased to meet you. We're from Silver Screen magazine.
They're doing an article on our picture. Would you please show them around? I have a matter that needs my attention.
Sure thing, Chief. Well, welcome to the madness, Miss O'Shea, Mr. Roberts. We're on a break right now, so if you want to talk to anyone, now's a good time.
Why don't we start with you? Smile for the camera.
How is filming going?
Ooh, not too bad. Had a couple of hiccups, but that's to be expected with any shoot.
What kind of hiccups?
Usual stuff. Camera broke down, an actress broke down. You must have heard 100 similar stories. Things have been pretty smooth lately, though. We should be able to wrap up by next week, maybe even end of this week.
Carl, we're almost ready to shoot. Who are your friends?
This is Francis O'Shea and William Roberts from Silver Screen Magazine. Chief asked me to show him around. This is Hal Sherwood, our director.
Oh, hello, Mr. Roberts. Haven't we met before?
Might have. On another set. This isn't my first rodeo.
That must be it. I'm afraid I don't have much time right now.
That's fine. We can come back with you. Who's in the scene you're about to shoot?
Just Maurice Dumont. He plays the lead. 5 minutes, Carl. I just have to grab the portrait from the office and get it put in place.
You can speak with Veronica then. I'll take you to her dressing room. Or just introduce you here as here she comes. We were just coming to see you, Mrs. Ridgely.
We? Oh, hello. Don't tell me. Let me guess. You're the reporters my husband told me about. Veronica Ridgely, star of The Portrait Lives and wife of the producer. Why don't we take this conversation into my dressing room? That will be all, Carl.
Yeah. Sure. Anything you say, Empress.
So you're Will Ruby. My husband said he was going to contact you, but I didn't know he'd do it so quickly.
He's a worried man. You don't seem to be a concerned wife, however.
I don't know what to think. Odd things happen, sure. On the other hand, Wendell has been working harder on this picture than any other. Maybe he's just exhausted.
Maybe. So how do you think things are going with this film?
Between the three of us, it's awful. Maurice is drunk all the time. I've begged Wendell to replace him, but he refuses. He said we need his name to sell the picture. His name isn't worth a penny anymore. And that portrait he insists on using, it gives me nightmares. He bought it from the artist, who is just as creepy as his work. I can't wait to get the shoot over with so I never have to see it again.
Boy, are you gonna be surprised. So you can't think of a reason anyone would want to kill your husband?
Kill? Heavens no. Sue, that's another story. While he's never broken a contract, he's broken plenty of promises. That's how the business works, of course, but non-entertainment people don't understand that. Let's go watch the shoot. You should get a taste of what I've been going through. It's supposed to be Maurice's big scene. If he gets through a single line in one take, it will be a miracle.
I can see I'm a valuable part of this investigation.
What? I told Mr. Ridgely I kept you too busy for you to try acting.
That's not what I... Never mind. So that's Maurice Dumont. He sure doesn't look like the suave sophisticate he plays in the old movies.
No, more like a swathed lush. I've never seen a gin blossom quite like his.
Something's wrong. What's going on, Carl? You look like you've seen a ghost.
It was worse than that. It's Mr. Ridgely. He didn't come out to watch the take, so I went to get him. It must have been an accident, but I called the police just in case.
What happened to Mr. Ridgely?
He's dead. Coshed by the crystal ball.
Wendell Ridgely was dead, all right. It's hard to stay alive after a 15-pound paperweight lands on your noggin. Frankie and I shed our reporter disguise and went to work in earnest. I got busy closing off the scene. Frankie became Veronica Ridgely's security blanket as the widow performed her best agony scene. I took a look around the office while I waited for the cops. The crystal ball had been sitting on a shelf behind the desk, so it wasn't implausible that it could have just fallen, but I wasn't buying it. It was too pat. On the other hand, who could have done it? The office was pretty centrally located to the activity. Somebody would have noticed a crew or cast member going in. Or, come to think of it, would they? I was still puzzling over it when LA's finest decided to make an appearance led by someone I know all too well.
Okay, men, you three start the interviews. Jones, you and Howard find out where the body is and start examining the scene.
What's left of Wendell Ridgely's head, as well as the rest of his body, is in a room marked production office. I kept everyone out, just for you.
Oh, Will, what are you doing here?
I was trying to find out why Wendell Ridgely thought someone was trying to kill him. Now I have to find out who did do it.
Oh, no, that's my job, and I'm doing it.
You two know each other.
Only in a familiar way.
Lieutenant Ruby, Homicide, and you are?
Veronica Ridgely, wife of Wendell Ridgely. My husband feared for his life and had hired Mr. Ruby to help. Will, I want you to stay on the case and find out who did this horrible thing. I'd feel so much safer if you did. I could be next, you know.
No, brother.
What did you say, Lieutenant?
I said that's my brother. Oh, and his, assistant. Hello, Francis.
Hello, Lieutenant George. Welcome to Movie Madness.
Oh, no. We are not going to have any madness. I want this to be like any normal homicide investigation. Will, Francis, you two with me. I want to know everything you know. I'll be with you shortly, Mrs. Ridgely. Yikes. That's one messy corpse. Francis, if you'd prefer to take our conversation elsewhere.
No, that's okay. I just won't look.
Oh, well, neither will I. So, little brother, what do you know about this?
Not much. Ridgely just showed up at the office this morning, said he'd been the victim of a few accidents that he thought were on purposes, and wanted me to confirm or deny. We've only been here maybe half an hour. I didn't have time to get to the bottom of anything, not even a glass of water.
Okay, that's half your story. I know you better than that. What's the other half?
I don't have anything concrete, just observations. Hal Sherwood, the director, is a very nervous man. Maurice Dumont is a very drunk man. Veronica Ridgely is more concerned with herself than her husband, but she couldn't have done it as she was with us when Carl, who seems to be the most normal guy around here, found the body.
Done it? So, you don't think this was an accident?
This was as much an accident as I am a bicycle. That crystal ball was on the shelf behind Ridgely when we were here earlier, but I know enough about physics to know that a simple drop on his cranium from that height would have just made a lump. The crack he has was done by force. That being said, I think we should play it as an accident.
To give the murderer a false sense of security. I agree. I don't suppose you know who's getting that false sense.
Not yet, but I will. It's my name, after all.
Your name will be mud if you screw up my investigation.
Nope, not mud. Frankie already nixed that idea.
Huh?
Don't bother, George. As Veronica is ruled out as a suspect, why don't I offer to take her home? Maybe she'll let something slip on the ride.
Good idea.
Yeah, okay, but promise to tell me everything she says, no matter how inconsequential.
Yes, dear.
I'll have the fingerprint men come in here, but I don't think they'll find anything of use. Everyone in the cast and crew must have come in here at some point.
Yeah. Hey, look at this file under Ridgely. It's Hal Sherwood's contract. Wonder why he was reviewing it. Well.
Well, what is it? Half-written pink slip?
No, an article from the Hollywood Tatler from a couple of years back claims Sherwood got caught trying to sell secrets about the picture he was directing to another gossip rag. And look at the contract. This section about trade secrets has been circled in red.
Think Ridgely caught him in the act?
Maybe. This picture is such a dud, though. I think he'd welcome the publicity. Still, it could be a matter of pride. It always goes before a fall, and that crystal ball definitely fell. I think it's time we had a talk with the director of The Portrait Lives.
Yes, I was accused of selling secrets about mutiny and triplicate, but I didn't do it, and I was later exonerated.
Did Mr. Ridgely caution you?
Yes, but I swore to him, and I'll swear to you, that I would never do such a thing.
Did you resent having that cloud over your head?
A little. Certainly not enough to kill him for it, if that's what you're implying.
As far as we know, this was an accident, just like all the other accidents that have been happening. Why do you think it's murder?
Well, it just stood to reason. If you're asking all of these questions, you really think it was an accident?
You have anything to make us think different?
No. Well, there is one possible thing. I don't know this for certain, but there's been rumors going around that Paula was chasing Mr. Ridgely around pretty hard. Don't know if they're true, or if she ever caught him. If she didn't, there might have been trouble. Paula's used to getting what she wants.
You don't say. Well, thank you, Mr. Sherwood. We'll be sure to look into that. That's all for now. I'll contact you if I have any more questions.
Thanks.
I have a question. Just so I have a clear picture, where were you between, say, the time you told Carl it was almost time to start shooting again and the time Carl ran out of the production office?
I don't know. A million places. There are quite a few steps to preparing a scene to shoot, and as director, I'm responsible for all of them. Check with Carl, or the cinematographer, or the focus puller. I know I spoke to all of them. Excuse me.
You're not a bicycle, little brother, but I have to admit, you're pretty observant. That guy is shaking in his shoes. I wonder why.
Ours is not to question why. Ours is to catch the killer. Though if he's a killer, we'll have a lot more questions than why. We had no evidence to hang any of them, of course, so George let them all go home. I didn't go home. I went back to the office to wait for Frankie and work on that poem. I was trying to decide between Bud and Dud to rhyme with blood when Frankie walked in and the phone rang. Ruby Detective Agency, the king is in. What can I do for you?
This is Maurice Dumont.
Mr. Dumont, you sound amazingly sober.
My drunkenness on set is just an act. My way of distancing myself from that horrible picture. I need to see you right away, Mr. Ruby. I have vital information for you about Wendell's murder.
You think it's murder too, huh? So what's your vital information?
No, not over the telephone. Come to my house, 300 South El Camino in Beverly Hills. And hurry, I'm not sure, but I may have been followed home.
I'll put on my wings.
What was that all about?
A very normal-sounding Maurice Dumont says he has information. We should get over there. Get anything from the aging femme fatale?
Directly? No. She just wept on my shoulder the whole way home. Indirectly, though, is another story. Just as I was leaving, the phone rang. I heard her pick up and say, in a very unweepy voice, "Darling, not now. That female junior detective just left, and she may be close enough to hear me. Yes, I'll meet you in the usual place."
You don't say. Good thing you were there, junior detective. I think we should go back to the studio after we visit Mr. Dumont and look for a clue as to who the other half of the romantic rendezvous is. Let's go. Well, this is it. Modest for Beverly Hills. Only 4,000 square feet tops and a 2-car garage, but tasteful.
There aren't any lights on. I thought you said he was expecting us.
That's what I thought, too. Mr. Dumont, it's Will Ruby.
Will, the door's unlocked.
I'm thinking a big uh-oh right now. Get behind me. I don't hear anything. Where's the light switch? Here.
Nobody in here.
Somebody in here, or what's left of somebody in here.
Dumont. He was shot in the chest.
Poor guy. From the look on his face, he didn't know what hit him.
He's got something in his hand.
So he does. Well.
What is it?
A business card. Lloyd Franklin. On the back there's a note. Veronica and him. Photos.
Lloyd Franklin, huh? He's the one who gets all of the extramarital affair cases you refuse. So, Ridgely suspected his wife had a lover.
The darling who couldn't be caught by the junior detective. I'm starting to see the jigsaw picture. Hand me that phone on the desk. George Ruby and Homicide, please. George? Will.
Uh-oh. You calling me is never good. You calling me during a murder investigation is worse.
I hate to admit you're right, but you're right. Get over to 100 South El Camino right away. It's Maurice Dumont's place. It was Maurice Dumont's place. He's not going to need it anymore.
What did you do?
Me? I just answered the phone. He asked me to come over, said he had vital information for me that he had to tell me in person. When Frankie and I got here, we found him dead in the study. Bullet through the heart.
Swell. So now we have another dead body and even less to go on.
Yes and no. I think I may know at least the who. Might know the why, too. Frankie and I are heading over to the studio now. If you would please let the gendarme de nuit know we're okay, I just may be able to sew this one up.
Okay. Just be careful. I don't want to have to process another stiff today, and I don't want to have to come and rescue you.
Never happened, big brother. Bye. Let's go. With any luck, we'll get this solved and still have time for dinner.
We do. And we're going to Formosa Cafe. You've been promising me chow fun for ages.
Good idea. The minute this is over, we'll go and have more fun than Chow ever had. So some of that might have been nothing but hot air. I have to keep my brother thinking I'm smarter than he is. Goes all the way back to our diaper days. The truth was, I had an inkling of who it might be and no idea about the rest of it. That tingling sensation on the back of my neck that I get when I know I'm on the right track had started, though. Frankie and I went back to the office so I could give Franklin a call and confirm the note on the back of his business card. He confirmed it. He said Dumont had called him that afternoon, saying that he'd found the business card and wanted to know if what he had just overheard was true. Franklin couldn't tell him, of course. Wouldn't tell me either, said his profession prevented him from spilling client secrets. It's my profession too, and I've seen that rule, so I didn't argue. I just told him to expect a call from my brother. I wanted to get to the studio anyway. I was willing to bet there was proof of who him was. Would the other man have killed to have his woman all to himself? I knew Veronica Ridgely couldn't have done it. Frankie and I were conveniently her airtight alibi. We knew something else too. I couldn't remember what, but it would come to me, like nightmares after a midnight pastrami sandwich. When we got to the studio, it was too dark and too quiet.
Wow. They should be filming at night. This studio is positively creepy.
And this is only the outside.
Hey, Mr. Ruby. Lieutenant called and said it was okay for you to go in.
Thanks, Willoughby. Anyone come in or go out?
Not since I've been here.
Good. With the exception of us, keep it that way. We shouldn't be long. There should be a light switch. Ah, here it is.
That didn't really help. Where do we start?
Ridgely's office. I want to see if he made any notes. Light didn't help this place either. Check that case full of props. I'll go through the desk.
If they're really using all of these props, there's no wonder the picture is a mess. It's supposed to be about a portrait, but these are Egyptian obelisks, South American clay idols, even fortune-telling cards and a diagram for reading palms.
On top of the other stuff? Wow. This has potential to also be messy.
Find something?
Yeah. Not what I was looking for, but certainly interesting. Seems Paula the ingenue Holiday was blackmailing Ridgely, or trying to. Here's a letter demanding $5,000 in exchange for her silence regarding a midnight rendezvous. A rendezvous I bet never happened.
I'll take that letter, Mr. Ruby. Give it here. And don't try anything funny. This gun is loaded and I know how to use it.
I can't help being funny. It just rolls off my tongue like a barrel down Niagara Falls.
Shut up. Just hand it over.
But if I do that, you'll shoot me and we'll never know who killed Ridgely.
It wasn't me, if that's what you're thinking. Wendell wouldn't cheat on his wife, no matter how hard I tried. I figured if I couldn't get him, I could at least get some of his money.
So if you didn't kill him, who did?
My money would have been on Veronica, but I know she was with you. After that, anybody on this set. We all had a reason to hate him. Enough talk. Hand me that letter and maybe you won't get hurt.
Nice job, Francis. A much better use for that obelisk. Have I told you lately that I love you?
Come to think of it? No, but you don't have to for this. And she was giving women everywhere a bad name. How did she get in past Willoughby?
Excellent question. Go ask him, and ask him to bring his handcuffs. I want to keep poking around. Darn it, no more blackmail letters or threats of murder or anything. No safe to crack. What else is in here? Pretty much just a case full of props and that awful painting. That awful painting. Willoughby, you little genius, you.
She got in through the back. There's an open door up near the roof where they bring the lights in.
Gosh, I'm real sorry, Mr. Ruby. I didn't think to check all the way up there.
That's okay, Willoughby. I'm actually glad she sneaked in and tried to kill us. She might have gone on the lam otherwise. I'll call George to come and pick her up.
Okay, I'll take her outside and wait for the prowl car. Come on, lady. You're under arrest.
I know who the murderer is, Frankie. All I need is a little proof.
Did you say proof?
Hello to you, too. What were you doing, sitting on the sofa with the phone in your lap?
Almost. I was waiting for the call to come and rescue you.
No rescuing necessary, but a prowl car is. I caught a would-be blackmailer for you. As for proof, I just need to get some to show who killed Wendell Ridgely, and I think I know where to find it.
Oh, yeah? Who did it?
Oh, no. Not until I've got that proof. You'll just have to be surprised.
No, you drive me nuts. If you weren't my brother...
Now. Just be glad I am and send some men to the studio to pick up your blackmailer. Willoughby is holding her.
I'm coming, too. I want to see what you're up to.
Suit yourself. We'll be searching the dressing rooms. Come on, Frankie. Let's go find that proof.
So, who did kill Ridgely?
I'm not telling you either.
Party pooper.
That's me. I didn't think it was going to be that easy to find the proof I needed to put the murder away, but people in love can be pretty dumb, and people desperately in love, desperately dumb. People in love with money can be the dumbest of the bunch. A quick look around Veronica's dressing room revealed that she was one of that last bunch. Everything in it was imported or bespoke. There were bills and letters from designers for more items. What there wasn't was a single photograph of her dear departed Wendell. That proved she was only interested in his money. That she didn't know he had sunk all of it into The Portrait Lives didn't really surprise me. Ridgely hit me as the kind of man to play his business cards close to his chest. So who was the one dumb enough to fall in love with her? It had to be someone attached to the film. That thought led back to the studio itself, which led to that open door in the back. What better place to rendezvous than the place you know is empty? A little more poking around and we found the evidence we needed. The best arrest is through a confession, so, with George's begrudging okay, I made a phone call to the murderer to tell him that I knew, that I was at the studio, that I had just found the evidence I needed to hang him and I was getting ready to turn it over to the police, that I was just waiting for Frankie to come pick me up. He hung up on me. There was a chance he'd try to escape, but I didn't think so. He'd killed Dumont to protect his innocence, so why not me too, as I was alone in the studio and he knew about that open back door. I went to the production office and waited. I'm not particularly dumb myself, so I pulled out my .38 and held it under the desk, just in case. Well, 2 for the price of 1. Lovely to see you again, Mrs. Ridgely, and you as well, Mr. Sherwood.
Never mind the pleasantries. I have a gun, and I'm not afraid to use it.
Oh, I know. You did a great job on Maurice. Got him in just 1 bullet.
Stop stalling, Hal. Just get whatever he has on you, and let's get out of here.
She's right. Hand it over. You're not going to put me in jail, not now or ever.
Before I do, satisfy my curiosity. Why did you do it?
Oh, I fell in love with Veronica years ago. She never looked at me twice until she was cast in this picture. He would never have divorced her. We had no choice. How did you know it was me?
I remembered you saying you had to go get the portrait in order to start shooting. The portrait was in Ridgely's office. That put you in the scene of the crime when it happened. Did it ever occur to you that she was just using you to get her husband's money? She's not interested in you or any other man. Just filthy lucre.
No, that can't be true. She loves me. She said so. Veronica.
Why are you listening to him instead of me? Just shoot him.
Just shoot him. Does a woman in love really say things like that? Think it over. Well, you do. I have one more question, one for Veronica. Did you know Wendell sunk every dime he had into The Portrait Lives?
What?
It's true. He told me so himself, but this bank statement proves it. He was broke, Mrs. Ridgely, which makes you broke.
You're lying. We have plenty of money. Money I'm going to use to buy a villa on the Riviera. I'm going to live the rest of my life in luxury.
You, Veronica? Not us. You said I.
Well, of course I meant we.
No, you didn't. Ruby's right. It was all about the money. You made me kill 2 people just so you could run away and have all the money to yourself. You don't deserve it. I'm gonna kill you.
Don't do it, Sherwood.
He tried to kill me.
I probably should have let him do it, but I was afraid I'd be his next target. Just in case you're worried, I didn't kill him, just winged him. He'll live to see his execution. Well, hello, George. Better late than never.
I was just on time. I heard the whole thing. Veronica Ridgely, you're under arrest as an accessory to murder.
One more thing before you drag her away, Lieutenant. Wendell didn't leave you completely bereft, Mrs. Ridgely. He bought you this lovely portrait as a memento of the picture you made together.
That horrible thing. You keep it. I never want to see it again.
Don't worry, you won't. You'll never see another piece of art as long as you live.
I can't believe you took her at her word and kept this awful thing, Will.
I kind of like it in a macabre sort of way. I'm going to hang it up in here.
You do, and I'll drape a shroud over it so I don't have to look at it. Any idea who the artist is?
According to the receipt I found, some guy named Smith. Art Smith. Ridgely bought it from him directly.
Art Smith. Has to be made up. Odd that he'd put such an awful picture into such a nice frame. Such a nice, old frame. Will, you don't suppose...
Suppose what?
Remember that story I was reading? About the smuggling ring that painted over masterpieces?
Yes?
Like you said, truth can be stranger than fiction. Let me try to rub off a little of this corner here. The paint is coming off. Does that say what I think it says?
It sure does. And I'd bet my last nickel that's one of the smuggled pieces. Life imitated art for a change. Poor Veronica.
Why poor Veronica? She'd never be able to sell this. She'd get caught for sure.
She wouldn't have had to. I read the same article you did, all the way to the end. There was a reward issue for the return of any unrecovered works. A very nice reward. Enough to fund at least a little villa in the Riviera. And the discovery would have been the publicity the portrait lives needed to make it a smash.
I just came to tell you that Hal Sherwood is recovering in the hospital and that he's made a full confession. What are you doing, Francis?
Oh, just solving another crime.
That picture is terrible, but I don't think the artist actually committed a crime.
You'd be surprised, brother dear. Take a closer look.
What? Well, I'll be. That's one of the smuggled pieces, isn't it? There's a hefty reward for the return of that, you know.
Oh, I know. And a reward for the capture of the thief. Seeing as that you're my brother and I'm a generous sort, I'll let you arrest the thief, who's going by the name Art Smith, according to the paperwork in Ridgely's office, and I'll turn this in.
How is that generous? You know I can't collect reward money.
But you'll get all the glory. All I'll get is, well, a little padding for the bank account.
God, if you weren't my brother, I'd pound you.
But he is your brother, George. And you can't live without him any more than I can. Even though he drives us both crazy.
This has been The Adventures of William Ruby, Private Detective, brought to you by Wright, the dentifrice that keeps your teeth clean and white. Tonight's cast included Helen Allemano, Val Coons, Mike Luce, Richard Tatum, Rochelle Wasserman, and Keith Wright. Story by Val Coons. Sound patterns by Val Coons. This has been a Q Footsteps production.